Hello. For this week, I decided that I was going to do a little reflection or integration of my learning via video. And again, I know we've kind of looked at the call to indigenize psychology, or at least bring indigenous psychology to the table in terms of conversation about psychology, which I love. I think I reflected on this a few weeks ago when we were looking at that in one of our chapters, and then this week I wanted to also read that chapter of different indigenous psychologies. And the first thing I really wanted to kind of state and reflect on, which I thought was pretty important, was just kind of the definition of indigenous psychologies, and that is that indigenous psychologies grow out of the basic political, economic, religious, and social components of each culture. It is defined as consisting of the cultural views, theories, classifications, and assumptions, coupled with the overarching social institutions that influence psychology topics in each respective culture. And I also wanted to say that I also learned that and have experienced that in each indigenous psychology is unique yet similar in some ways, and each aspire to address the forces that shape effective behavioral, cognitive, and human systems. So one thing that I have experienced in my life is just within my own, I am Native American. I identify as Native American, and when I talk about my spiritual or religious belief, I relate a lot to my spiritual belief within my Native culture. And when I was reading this week, it talked about kind of some challenges. And I think one of the challenges that we face as Native Americans in our indigenous psychologies, I guess, or traditional ways, is the loss of that knowledge of why we do the things we do, why we practice our traditional life ways. There was a reason why we, when one of our loved ones passed, a traditional way was really being with that body for 3 days, and before you bury them and before you do whatever it is that you're going to do with that body, there was a reason why we did those things. There is a reason why we use cedar to cleanse our homes and cleanse our bodies. And I think along the way, after colonization, we lost a lot of that knowledge, and I think that affected a lot of our Native Americans' mental health. And so that, I think, was a challenge for that type of culture. And so I think I just love the fact that we're having this conversation around indigenizing our ways of thinking when it comes to psychology. And again, I do think that there are so many similarities between and across cultures that maybe aren't recognized all the time, or seen as important to maybe look into. And so it's just refreshing to see that we're reading about it and we're talking about it. And so anytime we look at indigenous cultures across the world, I'll always take that dive into learning more about it, just because I want to bring those conversations to the table when I am doing the work that I'm doing. I really appreciate Westernized psychology, and I know it does so much work and help around digging a little bit deeper into why we behave the way we behave, or why we act the way that we act. Same thing, I guess. I appreciate Westernized psychology, but I also want to always have that lens of bringing in that indigenized traditional ways of life as well. So thank you so much.